Hello everyone, and welcome to a very special video by me, Jeremy James Prutchick. I waited specifically for today to upload this special video because yesterday was my birthday. And not just any birthday, it's a milestone birthday. I'm 30 years old now. That's right, I can finally say I'm 30 years old now. It's kind of weird saying that out loud because it's the end of my 20s and the beginning of my 30s, so I'll have to get used to saying 30 for a while, but honestly, other than that, I really don't feel much different. Age is just a number. It's all about how old you feel, and I've learned that you can never go wrong with being young at heart. Anyway, I'm going to take a break from the usual Jurassic Park content, but don't worry, it's still dinosaur and Jurassic Park related. A lot of things have happened to me lately that have made me do a lot of reflecting and thinking. So today, I want to talk to you guys about what these things are, as well as a lifelong dream of mine, a 30-year dream. A little over a month ago, I went on vacation to Alberta, Canada, and did all kinds of stuff there. I went to the Royal Tyrrell Museum in Drumheller, I did some camping and hiking in Dinosaur Provincial Park, and I even did some camping and hiking in the Rocky Mountains in Jasper. Alberta is such a beautiful place. I really can't say that enough. If you want to travel to a beautiful part of Canada once this coronavirus stuff is all over, check out Alberta. I think you'll really love it there. Now, I already did a video about my recent trip to the Royal Tyrrell Museum, so you can check out that video if you want to get an idea of what I saw. So I'm going to tell you about what came after. After we left the museum, my brother then took me to the Dinosaur Provincial Park in the same day, which he surprised me with over the phone before I flew in. To get there, we spent a couple hours driving through basically nothing but farmers' fields after we left Drumheller. Once we drove to a certain point near the park, the land dropped instantly. It looked like we drove to the edge of a giant bowl and we were going down in it. I had my face pressed up against the glass and was so awestruck to say the least. We did a lot of camping and hiking throughout the Badlands, and then we camped under the stars. When we were sitting at the campfire that first night, my brother asked me, "Hey, so after all this stuff we've seen and did today, you ever think about wanting to pursue studying paleontology again?" My heart kind of sank here because I knew how I really felt deep down. But instead, I said something like, "I don't think I can. I can't afford it. I don't want to move that far away from my family, and I'm just not smart enough for it." My brother was surprised, and he said something like, "Come on, don't say that. You've always loved that stuff. I know you could do it." Then we turned in for the night. The next day, we went on a guided tour through Dinosaur Provincial Park deep into the valley, where the general public can't get to since it's a preservation site. An actual paleontologist was our guide, and we learned all kinds of things about what the land used to be like, what kind of dinosaurs have been found here. We even got to see actual fossil beds / dig sites where real paleontologists were excavating. We saw all kinds of fossils here, and of course the beauty of the park. I found my very first fossil here, and told the guide about it. It was still embedded in the rock, but the guide said it was the femur bone of a Centrosaurus, which is a ceratopsian. The funny thing is that it was actually a part of the tour, and we went back to it afterwards. It was a great experience, and I'll show you some videos of it at some point in the future. Once the tour was over, we packed our stuff and then left. About a week later, I flew back home. When I got home, I googled the University of Alberta, which is one of the finest paleontology institutions in the world. I googled it just out of curiosity, when really, at the back of my mind, I knew why I was really there. I knew that my vacation rekindled an old flame inside of me that never really went out at all. Being surrounded by all kinds of ancient fossils and exhibits at the museum, exploring a land that looked like something straight out of a painting or a storybook at Dinosaur Provincial Park, and remembering that there are people out there who do this kind of thing for a living. Also during this time, I also saw that the University of Alberta was offering a free online course in dinosaur paleobiology. So I registered for the course and started learning. After going through the first couple of lessons, I realized how much I enjoyed learning them, and I thought to myself, maybe I can do this. So I want to take this time to make a huge announcement, so here goes. I want to pursue my childhood dream of becoming a paleontologist by studying paleontology at the University of Alberta. Nothing's been officially decided on paper yet because technically I haven't been accepted, but I'm already in the midst of putting together my application and getting my transcripts from both high school and college. This is my dream. The dream I've had since I first picked up a toy dinosaur. The 30-year dream. Ever since I was a baby, I've enjoyed dinosaurs, reading about them and learning about them. I could spend all day telling you stories from my childhood, teen years, and even my adult years about this kind of stuff. But for today, I'll just tell you 3. There are 3 big stories of how paleontology and dinosaurs were always somewhere in my life. So here's the first story, and this is about my interest in dinosaurs. My initial interest in dinosaurs in general began at a very young age, and it all started with toys. I had lots of little plastic and rubber dinosaurs I'd get for birthdays and Christmas. As I got older, I'd get cooler dinosaur toys, like the Jurassic Park toys for instance. There were even a few Christmases where I'd get one of those dinosaur dig kits for a present. You know, the really heavy ones that were like the size of a cinder block? So yeah, I had lots of dinosaur toys growing up. What expanded my interest in dinosaurs was when I first saw them on TV as a toddler. Other than Barney the dinosaur, I didn't really know about dinosaurs other than what I'd see with my toys and my picture books that were basically meant for toddlers and little kids. But on one night, I saw something that would change my life forever. I was around 3 years old in 1993, the same year that Jurassic Park was released in theaters. My parents were in the living room watching, I believe it was Entertainment Tonight on TV, and I was in the same room playing. They were showing a promo clip for Jurassic Park, and I remember it very well. It was the first few seconds of the scene where the T-Rex is chasing the Jeep and smashes through the tree. I remember being in absolute awe of what I was seeing. It was my first time seeing a dinosaur. A real dinosaur. Or at least what I thought looked like a real dinosaur. But yeah, ever since I saw Jurassic Park, I was fascinated about dinosaurs even further. And I'd watch a lot of other dinosaur things too over the years, like the Disney movie Dinosaur from the year 2000, the Land Before Time movies, and even the original Walking with Dinosaurs documentary. But it wasn't just TV and toys. I'd also read about dinosaurs too. I remember reading so many books about dinosaurs as a kid. I would borrow books from the school library, the local library. I'd buy them from those scholastic book order forms my school would send out once in a while, and I'd even buy them at book fairs. My older cousin even gave me all his dinosaur books from when he was a kid. So yeah, I watched dinosaurs, played with dinosaurs, and read about dinosaurs. Now, some people may think that dinosaurs are just a silly phase that kids go through, and they'll forget all about it when they get older, but that couldn't be further from the truth. This is where my second story comes into play. So this second story is a pretty funny one from my childhood. As I got older, and the more and more I watched the Jurassic Park movies in particular, I started to understand more and more about the science, the dialogue, and the messages that the movies portrayed. And once I understood what a paleontologist was, I knew that that's what I wanted to do when I grew up. Jurassic Park was the movie that got me into paleontology. Whenever I watched the scenes of Alan Grant at the dig sites in Jurassic Park and Jurassic Park 3, I thought to myself, that's what I want to do when I grow up, just like Alan Grant. And speaking of which, Alan Grant was kind of like a superhero to me as a kid, but not in the save the world from evil kind of way like Superman or Spider-Man, but more like a, when I grow up, I want to be just like you kind of way. I saw Alan Grant as kind of like a role model, someone who I wanted to be like, someone who knew all about dinosaurs and taught others about them and dug up their bones. So one day, I was bored, and I said, I'm going to go look for fossils, just like Alan Grant. So I went in the backyard and tried to figure something out. I didn't grab a shovel because I knew that my parents would think something was up if all of a sudden they look out the window and see me with a big shovel in the backyard. But I still wanted to dig, so instead, I grabbed a broken tree branch and slowly started digging with it. I didn't end up digging very deep, maybe like 6 inches or something, but what's funny is that my mom never noticed the new hole in the yard for quite a few days. Eventually one day, she caught me digging and said, Jeremy, no, don't. You don't need to be digging a hole in the backyard. And then I said, but I'm looking for fossils. To which she said, you're not going to find them here. My dad found out about me digging later on that day, and he said, yeah, you got to dig way down in the rocks to find fossils, not in the backyard. So, yeah, I may not have found any fossils that day, but that wasn't the end, because my interest in dinosaurs and paleontology would continue to carry on into my teenage years too, which leads me to my third story. When I was in high school, we had an assignment in science class where we had to pick a career related to science and research it to answer questions that the teacher gave us. You know, like, what does a so-and-so do? What kind of education does a so-and-so need? What kind of discoveries have been made in the field of such and such? Who are some famous so-and-sos? You know, those kinds of questions. We were supposed to present our assignment on some kind of display board. Then, we would all set up our displays on all the tables in the classroom and have sort of like a science career fair, where the teacher would go to each display and we would present to her. However, there was a catch. No one could pick the same career as another student. Everyone had to research a different career. I knew right away what career I wanted to research, and I didn't want to miss out on it. So when everyone was chatting and taking a few minutes to decide their careers, I said out loud, "Paleontology! I call paleontology!" The teacher could tell how excited I was, so she put me on the list for paleontology. I worked really hard on this assignment, and I had a great time doing it too. I remember putting some pictures of dinosaurs and dinosaur skeletons on it. I think I talked a bit about paleontologists like Robert Bakker and Jack Horner, and I even put some fun little trivia on it, like the Dilophosaurus did not spit venom in real life like it was shown in Jurassic Park. I was really proud of it because I worked so hard on it. So the day finally came where we had to present our projects to the class. Everyone brought in a huge fold-up display with their chosen career and set them all up on the tables. There was forensics, robotics, marine biology, all kinds of them. And a lot of students brought some props to help out with their project, like models and sculptures. And I did too. I built some wooden puzzle skeletons of a Triceratops and a Pteranodon to go along with my display. So when the teacher came to my table to see me present my project, I had a lot of fun showing her all that I worked on. I was like Alan Grant teaching at the dig site, really enthusiastic. And she really liked it too, because I ended up getting like a 90-something% on it. I was really proud of myself. And that's my high school story. So now that you've heard all these stories, I'm sure you can see how passionate I've been about this whole thing. One way or another, dinosaurs and paleontology have always been a part of my life, never quite disappearing completely. Sure, maybe they took a back seat when I took interest in other things like Pokemon, anime, video games, and wrestling, just like so many other kids. But it was still there. I guess I found a balance over time. And there are so many other stories I can tell about stuff like this, but I'll save those for another time. Now I want to address the metaphorical elephant in the room. Like I said, I'm very excited for this potential adventure, but unfortunately, that's not all I feel. Don't get me wrong, I am enthusiastic, and I am excited, but that doesn't mean I'm not afraid, because trust me, I am afraid. I'm very afraid of so many things. I'm afraid of throwing myself into a new environment where learning styles have changed so much since the last time I was in school. I mean, it's been at least 8 years since I graduated college the first time. I'm afraid of transitioning back into the student lifestyle where you're pretty much broke all the time and having McDonald's for dinner is considered a luxury. Balancing work, school, and family. Moving to the other side of the country, in a city I've never lived in. I mean, it's not like I'm just moving a couple blocks away or down the street. At the end of the day, I'm terrified of making a mistake that's so big that it can't be fixed, and I end up letting everyone down, including myself. Basically, it all comes down to failure. I'm afraid of failure. Some of you might remember from a previous video of mine that I've been battling depression for years, and some of the things that come with the territory in my case are a lack of self-confidence and me constantly doubting myself. Am I smart enough? Am I good enough? You know, like, these are some of the questions that I constantly ask myself when I think about this. Because when you go through life having so many people tell you you're stupid or worthless, like school bullies or bosses, you may start to believe it. Or even when things happen to you that make it seem like you're not good enough, like when your girlfriend cheats on you, you may start to believe it. This is just a small part of my battle with depression, among other things, and it's by conquering these kinds of thoughts and doubts that will hopefully give me back the courage, the confidence, and the clarity I need to take the next steps of this journey. So now that I've gone over all the sad, mushy stuff, I want to wrap up this video on a positive note and go over the good, mushy stuff. Because while I do think it's important to recognize the risks and fears, it's also important to look at the other side of the coin too, the personal fulfillment and reaping the rewards. It's because of these good things that helped me rediscover my passion. When my brother and I were in Dinosaur Provincial Park, we climbed up a big hill and watched the sunset over the valley. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. It was so peaceful, so tranquil, and I just felt so happy. My mind was clear and calm, and it was a subtle reminder as to just how small we as humans are in this great big world, a world that once belonged to such magnificent creatures millions of years ago. No matter what happens, even if I never end up finding a job in paleontology, I can still live the rest of my life without any more regrets. I'll still have the education under my belt, and I'm sure I'll have many amazing experiences in getting that education. On the other hand, if I do end up becoming a paleontologist after all this, I can only imagine how great it would feel, achieving a lifelong goal. I've always wanted to dig for fossils ever since I was a kid, and to be able to do that as a paleontologist would be a dream come true. I feel like there's some kind of positive outcome either way. I don't want to look back on my life 30 more years from now and regret not trying. We only live once. We only get one shot at this life we have. So wouldn't it make sense to just give everything you've got and go balls to the wall? My brother said something else to me on the night of the campfire, that maybe it's success that I'm afraid of, and I just don't realize it. All those things I mentioned that I was afraid of, on the other side of it all, could be something wonderful. I just gotta take that step. And one more thing. Here's something funny I thought of just before I go. I remember when I was a kid that a lot of the other kids used to laugh at me and tease me, calling me Dino Boy like I was some kind of loser. But just imagine, if I succeed with all this, well, maybe this Dino Boy could very well become the Dinosaur Man. With that said, this concludes another video by me, Jeremy James Prutchick. Thank you for listening to my stories. Do you guys have stories like mine? Maybe you've had similar trials and tribulations, or completely different ones. Either way, feel free to talk about them in the comments if you'd like. See you next time.